Okay.
I was like, I wish I was ready to talk about it then, if I had the space.
Yeah.
It's been about a year.
Brother, what I think I'm looking forward to, man, and I'm just going to go on ahead and apply this bit of positive pressure to you because I know you're prepared for it, man. I'm prepared for your interpretation of our life.
For sure.
I'm prepared to see what you produce, what kind of future, past, present, something that you give us, in film form, because it's already bubbling out of you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's there, man. So I'm ready to see what you give us.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate it, man. And I'm ready. I'm excited to share some stuff.
Nice.
Looks like we're live. We're going to wait a little bit for people to jump in.
Yeah. Let them go on ahead and get in with us.
Yeah.
And, I think, it's community building. So we want folks to come in, take their shoes off, have a seat with us. And,
exactly.
I'm curious to know what they think as well. So I'm looking forward to that piece.
Yeah. And I was talking about, I love how you use the come in and take your shoes off. Relax with us. Because I was just talking about this, how virtually, man, we invite you into this virtual space. And it's like, get as comfortable as you can. You're at the crib, you're at home, no matter where you are in the world. If you tune it in, we want you to feel like you're here with us. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
A part of what I've been trying to do in recent months, and I probably should have started sooner, but I think the pandemic and everything that's happened in the time with the threats to our lives and our bodies and our emotions, I've been trying to actively make room for fully realized and developing Black men, women, and children. Right. And I think a part of that has required me to conceptualize how I make that room and what people need in that room. And forgetting what it looks like to my eye and my mind and just kind of setting a table or just removing the table and chairs as are needed and let folks come in and just be as brilliant and messy as they are. And that's taken some adjustment, brother. It really has. But this film's an example of that, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
What you talk about, it sounds like a surrender. You're surrendering to
it. Absolutely. And if you consider this film, the kind of resistance that I saw in moments, like I see the main characters resisting as opposed to surrendering, and that being a kind of power, but almost leaning into who they are, regardless of what society and the small bits of our community are saying you have to be. It's like, well, I mean, dude, you's a weirdo. Okay.
What?
I'm perfectly so. So you're just going to have to deal with this. I'm going to lean into it. And no, I thought that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get it started, man. I think we got some people joined. First of all, my name is Torres Fontaine. I'm a part of the film club, Frame by Frame Film Club. As you all know, as you join us, please feel free to relax and engage with us. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the film club. This is a project that was started by laid off employees of the Columbia Film Society. A lot of us got together and we decided we wanted to continue the work that we were doing. And it's a blessing and a curse that we have to do it virtually, but I'm excited. I got a special guest here with me. He's a clinical psychologist here in the Midlands, and he's somebody who, as soon as I saw his work, I read some of his articles, and I heard him on a few podcasts, and I thought this would be a perfect guest to have for this panel. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Napoleon Wells.
Brother, thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. Let's jump right into it. I want to kind of get you to talk a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned my name already. And so a lot of what I do is I try to see to the wellness of our community. I am a professor some of the time, a father all of the time. A Black man all of the time. Wellness is critically important to me. I'm transitioning now from professorial work back into some treatment work. So those two things are always kind of in my background, teaching at the same time that I'm treating. And I used to refer to myself as a healer, but I no longer do. A lot of that healing work is done by people. More so, I'm just a witness while people choose to see to their healing.
I
And
love
so
that.
I'm blessed and fortunate to do the job that I do. I'm a clinical psychologist. I know a little bit about how I've been taught the mind works. And I
Hmm.
think, listen, our community has just taught me the rest. So I feel blessed and fortunate that people want to work with me and get a sense of what I think about us getting well, us liberating our emotions and seeing to our wellness. And especially for Black men, I think it's come to a very critical point where we have to make the decision for ourselves to try and piece ourselves fully together and to become more fully realized. So a lot of what I do is mixed all in that. It's a lot of gumbo.
Yeah, a couple of things stood out to me as you spoke just then. One thing you said is you don't refer to yourself as a healer because a lot of
Mm,
people are doing the healing. And I think that
mhm,
shift has been so powerful,
mhm.
witnessing that in my life, but also hearing you say that because you are someone who I recognize is just giving people the tools and they make the choice, right?
Yeah, yeah. So part of what I choose to say, and it's kicked back to me, but I choose to just kick it back, is my belief is that all humans have inherently what they need to be well.
Mm,
And my work is to very simply help others to see where they have those tools. The tools are on the shelf. I'm not even bringing them to them. You
mm,
inherently have those things. Can I reframe a thought that you can already form for yourself and
mm,
just stand still while you do it? Can I help
yeah.
you to be mindful of what's in the tool shop? Because right now the light may be out in the tool shop. Can I just stand by while you choose to turn it on and then walk in and say, oh, that's my family history. Those are generational curses. Those are my relationships. Those are my goals and my expectations. And as you make your way through, just choosing to reorganize, use, and put away. If I can
Mm.
just give people a very quiet space to work in to do that, then I've done my job.
Man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that you brought up history because
Mhm.
this film, it talks a lot and it presents a lot of history around our
Absolutely.
characters. And I think one thing that we see the main character struggling with, Jimmy, is he's struggling with this history, how he
Mhm.
connects to it, how he identifies with it. We'll get more into that as we go along.
Mhm.
But first, I want to ask you, as a Black man and as a clinical psychologist, what did you feel stuck out to you about this film?
Ooh, there were a few things that stick out. I can't say everything, I know that. But the very first thing that I would say stuck out to me was the tenderness between many of our male characters, even in instances where there had just been aggression and pain
Mm,
and rejection between them. And even knowing what happens to Kofi later in
mm,
the film, there's that point where Kofi is pulled away from it and he's in this home, like this makeshift home with these two other brothers. And being in the United States and having a makeshift home, a home that you've made for yourself, even though it's not really your home, like that meaning is not lost on me.
right.
A home that's been taken from you that you are going to make your own, that you are then sharing this tenderness with other brothers with in that space. Like it, for me, a lot of what the film gave us was this kind of launching off point. The things that we almost aggressively beat out of brothers when they're young:
Mm,
sensitivity, vulnerability, creativity. A lot of those things that we ask brothers to hide because we're worried that the world is going to visit those things with pain. A lot of those things were present in this film,
mm,
right? The kind, even Jimmy going as far as he went to reclaim what was for his family, it was treated as criminal throughout the film. Like, you're
right.
going to be arrested, this is going to be taken from us.
We're
And
gonna call
in
the
his own
cops.
head, right, he's simply saying, I'm just trying to live in my home. At the
Man.
very beginning of the film, I just want to care for the place that I know to be home, right? And for us, our home is our head. But us being, especially Black men, being tender, being sensitive, wanting to cry, hurting, needing companionship, needing to embrace one another, we within our community and outside of ourselves, we very often treat that in many ways as being criminal. And
Mm,
we don't necessarily mean to. I think a lot of our families want to chase that away because we believe any signs of weakness in that way, emotionally, cognitively, psychologically, are going to be punished. So we can't have that. We have to make it so that our boys and who are going to grow up to be men don't display those things. We don't reward those things authentically. We unfortunately chase them away.
Where do you think that comes from?
So the easy answer is it goes back to the instances where our ancestors were enslaved, where our ancestors were stolen and enslaved. So it started there.
Talk about it.
But where it continued is in our development as humans, right here on this soil, and our interactions with this homeland and in other places within the diaspora and around planet Earth. I think being that we haven't had the opportunity to be strong, to be powerful, to have a voice without it being stolen from us, our approach to life, even though it comes across as violent, even though it comes across as aggressive, it's almost like when cats are frightened, they arch their back, they spit. Like you would see a frightened cat and think that it's aggressive and it's about to attack. And a lot of our presentation is just that way. We're frightened in many instances by a lot of what the world has because the world doesn't necessarily love us and we know it. And much of that message has been carried over from oppression, white supremacy above our heads. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's not simple racism. It's supremacy. Supremacy steals the voice. Supremacy steals the peace. Supremacy, in fact, has a role for us. So we know universally our bodies are celebrated and sexualized, but our minds aren't. As long as we can tend to the task. And from day one, as far back as slavery, as long as our bodies worked, our mind didn't need to. As long as our bodies worked, our tongues didn't need to. As long as our bodies worked, that's what this land valued from us. And so to have those fears, to have those anxieties requires audacity because it's us being human. And this land has never wanted us to be human. It's never wanted us to be fully realized. It has use for our bodies. It has use for sexualizing those bodies. It has use for commodifying those bodies, but not for embracing the humans that are within those bodies.
Man, I want to add to this a little bit. And I feel like you can trace a lot of our struggles back to white supremacy, right? And I think what's important to highlight now is that although we have the responsibility to make our own decisions and to decide to change, I feel like it's also worth noting that the world around us was intentionally created, like you said, to dehumanize us.
Absolutely.
Right. Like the myth about us not feeling pain, right? Like that doesn't just come from nowhere.
Right.
And I think it's really interesting because, you know, we sort of create these, or like we play in these narratives, even though we didn't create them.
Correct.
And I think it's something that I feel like it's a real struggle, and it really irks me when I think about it, because, you know, I grew up as a sensitive child, and I know my dad was like, I don't want you walking around with an open heart because you're gonna get hurt. Right. Correct. You know, and so it's kind of like he had to do what he had to do to survive. He just wanted me to feel the same way. He wanted me to do the same things. And so a question that I have for you that I really think was a huge theme in this film is we see our characters. And before you answer, I want to show this clip real quick. Actually, before I even ask this question, I want us to take a quick look at a scene from this film that I thought was really powerful. And someone in the comments, oh, here it is. Let's watch it. Bear with us just a moment. We're going to throw this clip up real quick, and then I'll ask Dr. Wells my question.
Why? Tell him. Did you run, nigga? Nah, I didn't run, nigga. I told you. Lying. Man, fuck you, nigga. Get on it. Wow. Hit me, bruh. Man, what? Hit me, bruh. Hit me, bruh. And for what? You supposed to be my fault. Hey, Cope, hit that nigga, bruh. Yeah, let's go. Guys. Great. It's great. Very good. Very good. Guys, very good. Very good. Good. Excellent. Good. Hey, is you're all doing marvelous work. Congratulations. It's not easy. I believe you, but I know it can be deeper.
Fuck you talking about?
Hey, remember Stanislavski,
What are you doing, man?
Grotowski, Waslavsky, Chekhov, Brandt. These are the great.
I'm confused, bro.
You're okay there. You're okay there.
Bro, you're not a director, bro.
Man, take your weird ass out.
Keep building it.
Nigga, I don't like when that nigga come around here, bro.
Bro, this nigga's a
Say a
bitch.
word, I get on this nigga, bro.
Hold on.
So we got a lot happening in this scene, but one thing I really want to highlight is two things, and one pertains to my next question. We have this group of men who are all obviously friends. They're like brothers. They're like family. But I think the guy's name from the credits was Jordan. He's like, yo, hit him. Like, you want to show us that you're tough, hit him. And Kofi's just like, why? Like, y'all are my family. Why would I hit you? And it really shows this contrast of, and you can see it in Kofi's eyes.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to fight.
Absolutely.
And Jimmy says it later in the film. Kofi never liked fighting, but he would fight. He would fight for him.
If he had to. Yeah.
If he had to.
Correct.
And so my question for you is, why do you feel like men, especially Black men, have this really embedded need to present as hard and tough? And I know you talked about it a little bit, but can you speak a little bit about, like, still today we have this it's kind of like second nature sometimes to just be hard.
I think if I were to answer the question, and it's a very layered question, but we almost seek validation in the roles that we're allowed to play. And there are two parts of it. I'll cover a couple of the layers, but the role of the very violent, very disconnected, like an individual that is nearly marching toward their own doom, that is a role that is allowed to Black men. We can destroy ourselves in every way, and that proves our power because we don't have access to very many other levels of power. That's one that we do, that we can destroy life where we can't protect it in many instances. Where that idea of us playing that role comes into play brilliantly is when brother walks up and he's talking to them as if they've just finished the scene.
Right.
Here you are playing your parts almost perfectly. And he's almost comforting Kofi, like, you didn't quite get it, but you're still fine.
Right.
Here's Kofi violating in many instances these roles that we are idealized in, being this powerful and this strong in this space. Right. And if I were to consider what the cost is, and we all know what the cost is, I think in many instances, as Black men, we grow up with the sense that doom is waiting somewhere. And what I've seen with a lot of young brothers, unfortunately, is that their approach becomes, instead of waiting on it to come and find me, I'm going to go out to it. I am going to meet my inevitable end on my terms. And in doing so, I'm going to invite it by my conduct. I'm going to invite it by the company that I keep. And so there's a kind of emotional currency in it. To be bravest in seeking out your doom, almost in writing out your own beautiful death. That's rewarded, that you, in fact, have done this better than the rest of us because you chose the ground that you were willing to die on. And that is a role that is allowed to us. it still does go back to supremacy for all of us, not just black men, but an entire society of people who aren't often white and male and heterosexual. The idea becomes you have to play this role and we'll reward you for it. Should you step outside of that role, there will in fact be detention. There will be erasure. We'll find some way to ostracize you. But if you play your role well, you will be rewarded. You will in fact be immortalized because your doom will come if you go out to meet the role we have for you. But you have to do it because that's how we maintain this system.
Wow. Everything you just said, man. What I feel like Monty in this scene is doing and almost so perfectly is he's using his own, because he mentions this later in the scene to Jimmy. He says, so just because they're mean to me, I can't appreciate them.
Right.
And in that moment, he walks up to them and he's using his own, he's pretending to be like he's directing them, but he also uses that as a moment to just say to Kofi without saying it, right? Because he doesn't want to look at him in the midst of, his tough, hard friends and say, bro, you're fine. Everything you're doing is fine. Right. So as he's putting on this director hat and then he looks him in his eyes and with everyone else being confused, he says, you're good there.
You're good
I
there.
thought that was such a powerful moment. And there's a comment that Brittany just posted.
Hey,
it creates a sense of control when there's no sense of control or autonomy over your life otherwise.
Absolutely.
And I really love the word autonomy. Absolutely. Because I feel like that's what we have to step into as people, but especially as men and especially as black men, right?
Yeah, I think a large part of what we have to do is to create, I would say, almost an infinite number of identities that we step into, right? And I appreciate brothers like Monty who can go out of their way to direct us in those spaces, right? Where if we can find some way to see our lives as art and like, what are all of the different pictures that we can paint? Because the reality is most of us we don't want to be inherently and directly just this one thing. We want to be as complicated, complex, and layered as we are as humans, but we know that it isn't allowed. And if we often step a toe out of line, there's a price to be paid. Them screaming at Monty and yelling at him about not being a director, where for him, he wasn't trying to direct them more so than he was witnessing them. I am witnessing you being what you have to be in this moment, filling this role, right? And I am going to congratulate you doing what I know you feel obligated to do. And in many instances, I truly wish that we found a way to reward not just brothers, but all Black people when they go out of their way to say, here are all of the different versions of me that there are. Value those. Witness all of those. As complex and messy as those are, witness and value those. I am this piece of art now and this piece of art. Bring me some sort of praise and connection in those instances. And I think if we allowed ourselves to, the greater society is never going to celebrate us when we do. But within ourselves and within our homes. Like, we're going to talk about the play later. I know that's coming up, the performance that he puts on, but you think about that, how complex and layered and complicated that was. No, that's what we would love to be able to do in our lives in general, and we simply aren't allowed to in many instances. When we do, very often, right? Sean, that's a powerful statement. It feels like he was breaking a cultural fourth wall in that moment. And let me real quick, I like to make sure that I welcome family in. I see Brittany is family, Savannah is family, Aaron West is family, Christina is family, Sean is family. I appreciate all of you joining us.
Thank y'all.
In a lot of ways, what we're seeing, especially with younger Black men, younger Black women, younger Black queer members of our family, is they are going about trying to do exactly that. There's a new reality waiting if we push it. We can't simply continue to be what we've been told we have to be. We're not going to change any part of this world unless we just create all of these new selves.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And I feel like it's been necessary for us to point out where these problems are for years. And we've been doing it, like we're seeing it, more people are seeing it now more than ever. But I think the most important thing now is for what you just said, is to start creating that new world. And so I think this kind of transitions us into another scene that I picked out from this film. And we'll take a look at that now.
What the fuck happened?
Got shot. Shot him.
Who shot him? Who?
Many niggas.
For what? For what?
We stuck his shit to the wrong niggas. Try to bless them niggas out.
Try to bluff him out.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the question, bro? I just don't get it. I just fucking seen y'all.
And nigga,
And I don't fucking get it.
man, get the fuck up out of here, bro.
Me get the fuck out of here?
Yes, nigga, go.
It's your fucking fault. That's my fucking friend too.
All right, nigga. Get on this nigga. All right.
Push up on this nigga, bro.
You finna let him say that?
That poor boy and his friend.
Man.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, this scene, when you find out it was Kofi that gets shot, it really broke my heart. But then when I come out of the film and I see that I then get to witness what happens next, of, you know, his friends presenting this same toughness as they have throughout the film, and then he just breaks down. And not only does he cry in front of Jimmy, his friends see him crying and they cry too. Yeah. And then you have the embrace. I feel like a lot of times in film, I'm screaming for the embrace, and then to get it here was one of the most special hugs I've ever seen on screen, because it's all of these things wrapped into this one scene so beautifully. And I thought that was really powerful, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think a part of what I felt was, here's the moment where he really broke, where he's playing this role, and there's this tremendous weight that comes from having to wear this mask all the time. Like this idea of the physical, powerful, angry, violent Black man, like it's a costume. It is garb, it is wear, it is armor, and it remains emotionally heavy at all times. And what that scene did for me was, here was his brother in that moment tearing all of it off and just falling, just completely falling within himself and spilling out onto others. And you see there, and I'm going to mention another film that I hope we get to at some point, Moonlight. Yes. The instance in Moonlight, the very end of the film, where this brother, who is finally, instead of running away from himself, being his true self, allows himself to very quietly, but still with all of the meaning in the world, be embraced by another brother. That was precisely what was needed. And beyond that, he's the first domino that falls. He cries and he's embraced. And then everyone else is like, so this is a new identity for us. Right. This is us feeling fully this loss, and we're allowed to now be that in this space. It was phenomenally powerful.
Yes. Yeah. And Monty Hill says, "Hey, Monty." She
says,
Monty. I like what Grandpa Allen says after that.
Mm-hmm.
He says that poor boy and his friends.
Yeah.
And then he talks to if y'all remember that scene, he talks to Mont and to Jimmy, and he tells them, you know, I don't know where y'all are going, but stick together.
Absolutely.
And he's living in this neighborhood. Every time you see Kofi and Jordan and the rest of them, they're right across the street from his granddad's
house. His granddad's house right there, yeah.
So he's hearing all of them. Like he's hearing their comments, he's hearing them yelling. And he still says that poor boy and his friends. He doesn't be like, he's not like, oh man, these kids, you know,
right,
causing trouble. It's about time, right. You know, it's only a matter of time. He accepts that, you know, these were Mont's and Jimmy's friends. And, you know, he humanizes them.
Absolutely.
Which I thought was a really powerful scene as well to come right after that.
I think he understands, having been a Black boy and a Black child himself, he understands how reality and life beat them into the shape that they are. He understands how they lived into that space. And so he almost relates to them in a sense, where I think we've come to a point in time where, in many instances, when we're talking about Black men and we're talking about Black men psychologically and emotionally, we don't always look at the severity with which Black men express themselves or don't, and understand how. Or sometimes we're impatient and we don't want to any longer understand how. And I think this film was providing a lot of context for us to project that conversation onto. You know, but it I think provides a little bit of ground for empathy, and then for us to make meaning of.
Yeah, I agree. Brittany says he needed that energy of that embrace, and Jimmy gave him permission to let it all go, and that gave the rest of the crew permission as well.
Absolutely,
I love you using that word, Brittany. Permission.
Right? Yeah.
Seeing the example set, and then immediately falling in line, right? I thought that was incredibly powerful as well.
And one of the things that we spend a lot of time with on my particular side of the street in psychology is we talk about validating feelings. How very often people will feel a thing and they'll question whether it's right or wrong, or whether or not they understood the situation or what happened, because people don't validate it. And he started with this kind of rage and anger and being predictable as he was talking to Jimmy, because he didn't feel that he would be validated if he cried, even though they all wanted to.
Right.
As soon as he reached out to Jimmy and cried because he had to, he was broken and he broke open. And Jimmy embraces him back. There's that validation, right? And it just kind of spilled forward. I validate all of you and how you feel. And I'm validating myself. He's embracing me. I'm embracing him. We are all hurt. I was just angry a second ago, but I'm angry and I'm saddened and I'm frantic and I'm desperate. Validation is terribly important for us. And we don't very often share enough of it, brother to brother.
Right. Yeah. Jimmy could have been like, man, get out of here.
Get off of me. Don't touch me.
Get off me. Don't touch me.
Don't touch me. Yeah.
And I love that you brought up how he's feeling it all, right? And he says, yes, am I allowed to feel this way? Right.
Correct.
And he was giving it all. He was angry. He was sad. You know, he was existing as a person, as a human.
Absolutely.
Capable of feeling multiple things. So I think that's what's incredible about this film, and we don't see this a whole lot on screen, is Black men existing as these multifaceted characters, right?
It's true. It's true.
And I think this is why we later see the crew in the play, right? Because you wouldn't, if you see the beginning and then skip to the play, you're like, what happens to where they go from joning on Mont and Jimmy to coming to
his play? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Christina says, and the strength it takes to embrace plus express these emotions, that this is also manly, right? Like, what does it mean to be a man, right?
Right.
What does it mean to be manly? How do we present that? And I do want to talk about the play a little bit. I want to see if anyone has any questions, any
some questions for our folks. We should also mention the website, the donation website. Make sure we bring our family into everything we're doing as we proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wells.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're the contributor to the film. I'm forgetting all the cues.
It's okay.
But yeah, this is a project that is run by volunteers. We're all doing this on a volunteer basis. So you see at the bottom here our PayPal link. If you want to make a donation, we would be more than grateful to accept. Honestly, it's nice to have people here just engaging with us too. So thank you all so much. You can also see our website down at the bottom, Frame by Frame Film Club, spelled FrameXFrame Film Club.wordpress.com. We also have an Instagram account, FrameXFrame Film Club. And we have our Facebook as well, facebook.com/Frame by Frame Film Club. Anybody, any questions? Is there a questions, a Q&A, or is there just Makia's just applauding? Hey, Makia.
Hey, Makia, how you doing?
I guess the questions just can pop up in the comments section. If anybody has questions, please feel free to ask. Sherrard in the building. What's up, Sherrard?
What's going on, family? How are you? No, I think while folks are beginning to kind of frame their questions for us, I wanted to touch on the comment that mentioned manly. And I think that's an important distinction for us to make, because what we're almost not allowed to be, we're allowed to be with our interpretation within ourselves, not even our community, within ourselves, what manly is. I would go so far and venture so far as to say white supremacy has developed for itself this version of manhood that is kind of the apex predator. And it is white and it is male and it is Christian, it's heterosexual here in the United States anyway. And we often know when it makes its way into our spaces, it's going to victimize and hunt us as well. So we hide, we try to befriend it, but really what we are doing is idolizing it in many instances, us as Black men. And so when that version is out of our space, I don't even know if we always realize that we do it subconsciously. We, in fact, idolize it and try to be it, some bastardized version of that apex predator, just with Black skin. And so us not having the power to maintain it, not even having the will or resources to try and attempt to maintain it, being that we can't directly hunt the way that apex predator can, we become self-destructive. We start to feed on ourselves just to get a sense of what hunting is like, just to get a sense of what brutalizing is like, just to get a sense of what that power is like.
Man, yeah, you're so right about that. And Aaron, Ari says, I'm interested in your takes on the role of the street preacher and what it means that we saw him practicing in the mirror. I love how this film comes on. You see little Jasmine, she's staring, she's missing her front teeth, and she's looking up at these men who are in hazmat
suit. Yeah.
And then the next person you see is a preacher, and he's standing on his crate, and he's just saying, fight for your home, right? Why do they have suits on, but we don't? And what you don't realize is that Jimmy and Mont are right across the street, and they're just looking at him. Yeah. And Mont's like, you think he rehearsed? Or Jimmy's like, do you think he rehearses this?
Yes, that.
And Mont's like, it seems more impromptu. But then you later see, Ari points out that he is in fact in the mirror and he's practicing, right? And I think when I saw this, I was like, okay, this man, he's cultivating something, and he's going out of his way. Nobody's paying him to do this. He's just he wants somebody to step up and fight, right? He's spreading this message saying there's something happening, and a lot of people, most of y'all are just complicit and just letting it happen. And so he's imploring someone to fight for your home. And Jimmy sees that, and in that first scene, and you see Jimmy kind of complete his sentence when he says, fight for your, and then Jimmy says freedom. And that's when we kind of get the first look into who Jimmy, this kind of ride Jimmy's going to go on as somebody searching for meaning and identity, right? I'd love to hear what you think about that, though.
So the way I responded to it, especially with him practicing in the mirror, is he was trying to perfect a version of a messenger that Black people would respond to and listen to, and the wider society wouldn't immediately criminalize and try to destroy. I think he was, as much as possible, trying to pick a very safe, because he had this message he wanted to bring, and I think he had decided what is the best way for me to craft myself into a vessel that will be received by the community and won't be made an outlaw by the wider society around that. Man. So he came up with this version, the preacher. Here's this vessel that will be listened to, that will be received, that will be heard from. Like, he's right over there in the part of the country and in California where we had the Black Panthers, but we know immediately how the Black Panther Party was received. Even though he was offering some of that same message. What if I give them that same message, but I give them a preacher? Maybe it'll be received more safely. And I don't think it was natural for him to present it in that way, because he's in the mirror practicing it so it can be received. Right. It wasn't natural at all.
Right. And you see how like it kind of makes you think, like, who's going to call the cops on a preacher, right?
Who's going to call the cops on a preacher? Who's going to beat a preacher over the top of the head, right?
Right. Sean says the opening scene with Jimmy skateboarding through the city, I felt painted a great picture of that exclusion that the city has become. Yeah, I completely agree. And Aaron, who's from San Francisco, says that the city wants to be seen as inclusive, but it's not. The gate is not actually open for everyone. And I think a scene when you see Jimmy, if y'all remember this, you see Jimmy riding the bus, and those two girls are they're doing their makeup, and they're like, "Man, we hate it here. Let's just move to LA." Yeah. And Jimmy's like, "You can't hate it unless you love it."
Unless you love it.
Yeah, right. And I think that perfectly exemplifies how, the people who are from there, and I wish we had someone to come on and talk to us about gentrification. We can do that on our own time at some point, but I think it perfectly exemplifies how these people who are being pushed out, like Jimmy and his family, they hate and they love it. They want to save it. They want to be there. And then you have white people coming in like, "Oh, we hate it here," and he's like, "You can't hate it. Like, you're not allowed to hate it.
You're not allowed to hate it unless you love it." Yeah.
Unless you love it.
And that for me, what was so incredible about that, and how he continued to use his skateboard almost as a last resort. Like, I have to get around this city in some way, and I can't always wait for the bus. What I felt was amazing was that there were so many moments where people were doing things that you associate with San Francisco and with being liberated in that space right next to Jimmy, but he wasn't able to participate. He's waiting on the bus. This dude walks up full naked and sits down to wait for the bus. And you can almost see in Jimmy's face, he's like, "I'm not even going to respond to it. It just is." But you're left with the sense that if Jimmy were to have done that, right? Well, first, Jimmy understood I could never do that. Right. And then he skateboards immediately away from that scene. And in doing so, here's the powerful part for me. He falls on his skateboard. Here I am trying to do this thing that is so like everyone else, and I fall in doing it. Something I've done plenty of times, that Black life, when it is trying to be fully realized, is often interrupted. Whether it be in the homes that we occupy, and gentrification does that. We have these histories with places where we live. We have to come back to gentrification at some point, because we've got to talk about what is happening to Black neighborhoods in Colombia. What is happening to Black families in Colombia, and how they're being moved from the spaces they're in into other spaces to make room for what is supposedly progress, but truly isn't. I'll stop it. We'll come back to it.
We'll get there. I want to bring up this, what Ome just posted. She says that line about "you can only hate if you love the city" really hits her hard. I'm from Toronto, in that area that me and my family were pushed out of because of gentrification, and now having left and still loving Toronto, but also loving being here. That scene captured it all. Yeah. I think what is hilarious about that scene is this man, and Brittany pointed this out to me, and I didn't even realize it, that he puts down his plastic before he sits down, the naked man. Yeah. And even though Jimmy's like, he's just kind of shrugging it off, what they're both annoyed at is the party train, right? It's like
right across the street from them, yeah.
Right across the street, and the guy's like, "Man, this city," and Jimmy's like, "Yeah," he's like, "Yeah, I feel you, bro." Like that's the thing that's ridiculous to both of them.
Myself being, I'm from New York City, right? So I feel Ome's pain in some way. When you think about families that have been moved, I think about what Harlem looks like now. In the Brooklyn of my childhood, where Brooklyn had this strong, very Caribbean, Black identity around it. And to now see how it's changed and people saying, you know what, almost like Columbusing, like we came in and we made Brooklyn civilized for all those who now want to live in Brooklyn. Like you see this happening. And myself, I'm from the South Bronx, and you have all of this property that is being purchased. And the first thing that happens with gentrification is somebody renaming it. Right, this area which was formerly crack vials and gunshots and small communities of color, well, now it's the Piano District. And San Francisco gave up that ghost long ago. But you almost had the sense from this film, and know in reality, the Black community which lives in the city has almost been silenced. Same thing for Oakland. It's been silenced, and it's been pushed way into this perimeter that it's also not welcoming, and it's happened in parts of Chicago, any and everywhere on planet Earth. In Paris, where you've had communities forced back out to the suburbs so that the city could be saved. Gentrification is a kind of violence against Black and brown bodies. It's absolutely a kind of violence.
Ome says it seems like gentrifiers come for the culture, but then push it out.
Right? Oh yeah. Yeah. Because all you need to do is buy a dish in a restaurant and you got the culture. That's it. You do that and you're good to go, I guess.
You said the first thing they do is rename. The second thing they do
rename,
add a couple vegan spots, and then you know it.
Yeah.
It's over. For certain. I do real quick. I want to talk real quick before we wrap up about the play, because I feel like the play is the thing that really, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but the play is something that really, like, you get to see everything you love about Mont's character, and you get to see all these themes of the film come together so brilliantly in this play. And Mont, this whole film is presenting as the most gentle, loving, and caring person, right? You see him, he's got Jimmy living with him, with him and his grandpa. When you see the scene where they're watching the movie with his grandpa, they're sitting on the couch and they're so close, and it's so intimate, and he's basically being his own personal audio descriptor, right?
Absolutely.
Telling him everything that's happened. His granddad's blind and he can't see. And I thought, like, what the amount of care that has to go into doing that is phenomenal. But then in this play, you see Mont he tells this story for Kofi, and he tells the story for Jimmy, right? What did you feel about how that all came together?
I thought that play was powerful because it, in many ways, I think it became kind of this griot's story of all of us. In a way, there's a space where he has makeup on both sides of his face and he's playing two different people at once. And then he is including everyone who is around. Like, I am going to touch on the psychology of all of us, and I'm going to bring that forward. I think that his character, even more so than Jimmy's character, was tapped into the near full psychology and the complexity and almost the absurdity of being Black and male in the United States. And I do mean the absurdity of it sometimes, that we have to wear different masks on both sides of our face. And we have to try to be that complicated and that layered at all times. The play itself, what was most powerful to me was the conversation he and Jimmy are having. Jimmy knows what's coming. Jimmy has always known the truth of their existence, as we all have. But we tell ourselves these lies so we can continue on. Otherwise, what meaning have we given our lives?
Right.
What is so interesting about Mont is that you get the sense that he lives moment to moment. Like, he lives life as it's happening. And he's making so much meaning of so many people, regardless of how complicated they are as men and as beings, he accepts them, regardless of how fractured the community may be and how complex and difficult the relationships may be. Yeah, I need that. And he drew energy from it and gave that energy back. I think he was kind of the griot's voice of that whole community there. It was outstanding.
Yeah, he tells Jimmy, "You exist outside of these walls," and I thought that was the line that gave me tears, man. I was like, "Damn, I can resonate with this."
Yeah,
and searching for identity, right? And he's searching. He's like, you know, his relationship with his father is complicated. You see how he runs into his mom on the bus.
That was brutal. I struggled with that, man.
Me too, man. But yeah, I just felt that. I felt that so strong. You know, when Jimmy finally is like, okay, it's time to admit the truth.
Yeah.
You know, we have that scene later where he apologizes to Monty, and Monty's apologizing to him. He's like, "I'm sorry, that was a dumb play." He's like, "No, I knew the truth and I didn't tell you."
Right.
And then they hug again. I was like, yes.
Yeah, because what was so brilliant about the film is someone mentioned permission earlier, and I added in validation, the permission and the validation that conversation gives us. Like, we can be right and wrong, and we can still be close and family, and we can still show love and have these intimate moments all at once. Our relationships can be that complex. I think what was important about the play, and I'm glad that it was added in, is as families and communities of African descent, storytelling is remarkably important to us. And a lot of our story has been funded, told, stolen, and then repackaged by others. What I love so much about the moment that we live in now is how I'm seeing so many of our young who are deciding to tell the story, right? Like we couldn't have had an Afro-punk festival 30, 40 years ago. But people are now creating those stories with their bodies, with their minds, with their clothing right now. I myself abandoned a lot of my academic writing so I could start to write Afrofuturism because I saw the importance of us telling our stories to our psychology, us telling them, us telling our future, us telling our past, us shaping our history, us talking about the Doggon's relationship with space and what were they doing up there and what does it mean for us down here. And then having a play that complicated where he was like, I'm telling the story of us all. I am your griot. And as a griot, the story can be hard and rich and full and brilliant, and I'm giving it to you.
Charlotte says this made me think about when Jimmy hears that Segway tour outside his house and the dude is giving the wrong facts and Jimmy shows him up and tells him the real history. And she says it's like these people are coming in and don't even know the history, don't really care to hear the real history, which, you know, I think this goes back to storytelling, right? Like, it's so important that we tell our own stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me see where we are. Oh man, we almost at an hour.
Yeah, we're about there.
I want to go ahead and kind of wrap it up. You have any closing comments you want to add?
Sure. Before, I want to make sure, if we can, let's get the donation link back up for our folks so they can see that. Let's get that in as often as we can.
I was going to do that. I was going to do it.
No, I know before we got out. I wanted to make sure to beat you to it.
I love it, and I appreciate it.
Not a problem, brother. But no, I would love to see, and as I mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation, I wanted to apply a bit of positive pressure to you. You have a very rich story to bring us from within our community. I'm glad that we have Frame by Frame that are present. We've needed this, you know, in our community here. And no, I think having a film like the one we had and so many others that brothers and sisters are attending to and making and crafting and struggling with, those stories are out there. And I think that really the genesis of our true freedom is found in our minds and in our bodies and in those stories that we're prepared to tell. Absolutely.
I agree 100%. If y'all look at the bottom, you'll see our website. If you want to visit and find out more information about the film club, please do so. You can email us. There's a link to our email. There's also we also have an Instagram account, If you want to post, tag us, Facebook, comment, likes, all that social media stuff. I also want to just make sure y'all know next time, for next month, Makia Green is going to host a panel about the film Rafiki.
Nice.
And it looks like Kristen might be able to throw this trailer up if y'all want to watch it real quick. This is going to be the selection for next month, October, selected by Makia Green.
That we will never be like any of them down there. Instead, we're going to be something real. Yes, something real. Yeah. Sitting at the corner, me and Susie know. We ain't got no worries, we are looking like that all.
A mortgage.
Hizo ndio vitu vya diaper.
Hizo ndio vitu kila mtu hutaka.
Isn't she just look like a proper woman? Look at you. You're nothing. Hi.
You know exam results are out.
I get to be a doctor.
Yes. I can get a scholarship.
Yes.
Wasichana wa MCA. Unadhani mababa zao wanajua?
Lakini kilichonishangaza, kuna Wakenya ambao kidogo wanaishtumu serikali kwa sababu ya msimamo wao wa ndoa ya jinsia moja.
Just a typical Kenyan girl.
So this film is also available on Canopy if y'all want to check it out. It was actually banned in Kenya, and when it was released, there was a huge outcry because it does feature, like it features same-sex marriage. And Makia selected this film. Makia Green, shout out to you. Makia, Sean, hit me up on Instagram or Facebook, where I got a lot of books for you. Sean asked, can you recommend an Afrofuturism book for us to check out?
Yeah. Find me in any social media space, Sean. I got you too. I got some titles for you.
Yes. You can get your Canopy subscription for free with a library card. And my friend Brittany just helped me realize that you can do this anywhere. You don't have to just be where we are. But yes, I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. Thank you to Dr. Napoleon Wells for your beautiful insight on this film. I hope to see y'all next month. Please follow us on our social medias, like us, tag us, comment, leave the heart eyes, all that stuff. Veronica, I see you at the bottom there. Yes, this was so much fun, and it was so important. I'm happy to continue this work with the crew. Shout out to Kristen Morris and Ome and Savannah and Steffi and Makia. We got a lot of stuff we want to talk to y'all about. And so, Tug, I see you. Let's do this work together, y'all.
There it goes.
Hope everybody has a good night. Thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thank you, family. Y'all take care. Be good.